is a presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Fox Sports. We are Ohio.
A February deep freeze has hit Ohio, but things are about to heat up big time as the hottest team in the NHL blows into Nationwide. Columbus Blue Jackets, St. Louis Blues. It's live and straight ahead only on Fox Sports Ohio. It's Friday night hockey at Nationwide Arena. The St. Louis Blues and Columbus Blue Jackets renew an old rivalry. How can it be that two hockey teams that have met more than 70 times on the ice are seeing each other tonight for the first time in more than a year? Yes, the Blues come in red hot. They'll try to extend their winning streak to 8 straight games. The Blue Jackets will try to get an all-important victory before hitting the road. Lots of familiarity, as you well know. John Davidson and Jarmo Kekalainen helped build this Blues team, while behind the St. Louis bench is Ken Hitchcock, a guy who took the Jackets to their first ever playoff appearance. Speaking of familiarity, let's get upstairs to two guys we know well, Jeff Rimmer and Jody Shelley. Hi, guys.
And hello to you, Dave. Good evening, everybody. Well, the Blue Jackets swing back into action here tonight, and we'll have the full complement, Jody, of forwards as Matt Calvert returns from a 2-game absence. He's lost 10 pounds, but he should help the Jackets, and you look for that explosive speed to work to their advantage.
Yeah, he fell sick with that illness, went missing for a couple days in Tampa, lost that weight, 10 pounds. Can you believe that? Ask him how he feels. You know what he said? I feel quicker.
Great attitude he has. Back in the lineup. We always talk about the identity of the Columbus Blue Jackets. Matt Calvert was out with that wrist injury earlier in the year. He's been back the last couple weeks before he got sick. You said it, Jeff. He looks like the Matt Calvert of old. The identity that he plays with, the hard-nosed style, we like to see that in the lineup tonight.
Tell you what, with Matt Calvert back in the lineup, let's take a look at the lines, because I think for the first time in a while here, these forward lines are balanced scoring-wise.
That's a key word to these, is balance. And that Johansson line, Hartnell and him got reunited last game. They found some chemistry. Foligno was on that other side, but Atkinson's there. He brings speed. Hartnell brings grit. Johansson's been carrying the team. Second line, Dubinsky and Foligno. They've got to get something going here. These guys are a big part of this team. They're a big part of the future. Need them now to get going. Corey Trop running shotgun. He's all smiles about that. Anisimov is back. He's getting better each and every game. Jack Skilly's got the speed he's got to bring here tonight against the St. Louis Blues. And Wenberg will be taking the face-offs, but playing that wing, he's getting better each game. And how about this? There's your buddy Calvert. He's on the left wing with this line. I like this fourth line. You look at this team right now. You said it, Jeff. Balance, and this fourth line can bring a lot tonight.
Well, as far as the St. Louis Blues are concerned, they're coming off a win last night over Buffalo. 3-0 was the final. They have set a franchise record for points in consecutive games. They're 12-0-1. They have won 7 in a row. They've won 5 straight on the road, and they are led offensively by the electrifying Vladimir Tarasenko, who currently is 6th in goals with 27.
He's 23 years old. He led the KHL in scoring a few years ago. Drafted by St. Louis, waited to come over when he felt it was right. He came to North America, and boy, is he on the watch now. This guy's been talked about all year long because of his highlight reel goals. But his teammates and the people in the organization speak of his power, his speed, and boy, I'll tell you, some of his moves, amazing. Watch him tonight. I know the Blue Jackets defensemen better not be watching.
This team used to be a bunch of pluggers. They were successful, though. But now they have that added scoring threat. First Tarasenko, and how about Jaden Schwartz? He has turned into a bona fide offensive force for the Blues and is currently second on the team, Jody, with 19 goals.
Another young guy, and every team in the National Hockey League has got a young nucleus. Yeah, there's old veterans like Backus that lead this way, but these young guys, have stepped it up and brought another dynamic to a team that's deep and dimensional. Young guns in this league making a huge impact.
So there you have it, the Blues and the Blue Jackets, first of 2 regular season meetings. Yes, former Central Division rivals. They meet for the first time here tonight at Nationwide. The opening face-off is next. Stay right there, here on Fox Sports Ohio. Ohio, brought to you by First Financial Bank. Another step on the path to success. By IGS Energy. Take control of your natural gas and energy costs and enroll today at IGSenergy.com. And by Nationwide. At Nationwide, we put members first. To find a local agent, visit nationwide.com. Nationwide is on your side. It's a hockey night in Central Ohio, and here at Nationwide Arena, the Blue Jackets and the St. Louis Blues get set, and the Jackets look to abruptly end the Blues' winning ways. And they look to Curtis McElhinney to lead the way. McElhinney 5-3, a .921 save percentage, 2.53 goals against average in his last 8 starts, and 200 feet away, Ryan Elliott riding a personal 5-game winning streak. 16 wins on the season, a 1.95 goals against average and a .929 save percentage. He was one of the all-star goaltenders here in Columbus a couple of short weeks ago. The rookie, Kendrick Nicholson, working alongside the veteran Paul Dvorsky, who will drop the puck. Shandor, Alfonso, and Matt McPherson are the linesmen. Blues wearing their traveling lights. They were at Buffalo last night, arrived in the early morning hour, and tonight take on a Blue Jackets hockey club looking to end a 3-game losing streak. They've got 8 of the last 11 and have been outscored 13-8 since the All-Star break, going just 1-3.
And the Jackets having a bad start last game, Jeff, and they knew it, and we heard about it the last few days. Look for urgency here to start.
How about Todd Richards' comments this morning? They can't wade into this one. They better be ready to play against a team that plays a heavy and quick game.
Could be the best team in the National Hockey League, these St. Louis Blues. A lot of people think so. And with their goaltending playing as well as they are, gives them a chance every single night.
Up high, Butler sends it wide of the net. Johansson attempting to retrieve it along the boards, wins that battle, and it's on to Cam Atkinson down the off wing with Hartnell. The two cross the line, trailing there is Johansson in the near corner. Hartnell finishing the check there on Gunnarsson. Up along the boards, the Jackets look to the slot. Johansson a quick shot, and Atkinson trying to send home the rebound with Elliott leaving it right there in the blue paint.
Johansson didn't look like he had much time there at all. But Hartnell gave it to him. He got it away. And how about Atkinson? Watch 13 at the bottom of your screen. He knows where the puck's going to go. He gets there, knocks it out of the air, just over the net. But I like this. Winning the battle in the corner. Kind of no look. Look at the 3 Blues there. 3 St. Louis Blues right in Johansson's time and space. Somehow he got that on net.
Interesting, Jody, that this morning Todd Richards pointing out how happy he is with the game that Ryan Johansson is currently playing. And I think, you tell me if I'm wrong, I think part of it is the fact that I think Johansson learned something in that All-Star game a couple of weeks ago and what it takes to be that top player.
Well, I think John Davidson gave him that kind of advice. Go have fun, but observe some of the elite players in the league that you're going to be in the dressing room with. And you could be right, Jeff. That's one thing that when you rub elbows with some of those guys and see how they operate, it's kind of a special time. Todd Richards mentioned this morning, Ryan Johansson has been driving this team.
Behind the net. Puck left by McElhinney for James Wisniewski. Both teams change on the fly here as we approach the 2-minute mark. Connaughton Bull sweeps a pass to the right wing here for Letestu. Chips it off the wall by Bouwmeester. Calvert first in on the forecheck, as is the norm. There's Gotch trying to ride off Calvert. Played on the right wing. Blues march out of their own zone. This is Bouwmeester, the talented defenseman who is amongst the best skating defensemen in the NHL. Reeves, according to Hitchcock, has really stepped up his game. There's a shot from the point, and it's redirected wide of the net. Picked up there by Matt Calvert. Calvert steps away from Gotch, takes a hit, but is able to send it up the right wing boards. Bull finishing the check there on Reeves.
That was a big run at Reeves, who's similar position to Jared Bull. Keep an eye on those two, 75 and 40. Both not afraid to drop the gloves.
And when these two teams have met in the past, it usually got to a little that fisticuffs and then some. Corey Tropp, right wing to center. Tropp first across the line. Savard trails a quick shot there. Deflected over top of the net. Tropp right back on it. Tropp looking for Foligno. Cycling out of the corner. Up high, there is Savard. Savard cross ice. Kept in there by Ryan Murray. Sends it wide purposely. Foligno walking out. Foligno hangs on. It's knocked away. Savard steps up. David Savard into the slot. Tropp tried to pull the trigger. A second effort off the pad of Elliott. Jackets play the puck, but it's Gunnarsson who steers it ahead to the captain Backus, and he'll send it wide of the net.
Backus there just played it in deep. He wanted to get off the ice. David Savard kind of fell down. but Nick Foligno was in good defensive position, so Backes had to dump it in on that even rush, 2-on-2.
Olmister, quick feed. Sent wide of the net. McElhaney to the corner. Schwartz picks it up. Deals it back below the goal line where T.J. Oshie will deal to the point. Up high, Bolmister purposely sent wide. Oshie looking for the tip. Oshie now walks out. Wisniewski all over him, and Schwartz sends it over top of the net. Pressure coming here. Picked up there by Johansson. A clearing pass. The Blues able to keep it in up high? No. It's Johansson with the active stick. Now picks off a pass. Moves it with a shot and a glove stop there by Elliott.
Well, nice little series there by Ryan Johansson. Picks it off at the blue line, like you said. That was a clearing attempt that got to the line. Ryan Johansson made sure it got out. Watch him fall up the play. Picks up that puck. Quick decision to put it on net. And there you have Elliott. Flashing the leather, we'll call it. Big save by Brian Elliott.
Alexander Wenberg set for this face-off, and as we heard this morning, Jody, that Wenberg is going to take the draws on this line with Anisimov. Anisimov may not take face-offs again this season.
Yeah, that's something. Anisimov with the torn tricep. Happy to be back and playing that center position, but will not take face-offs. That might not make sense. But there's an important role as a centerman in the defensive zone to play that low support position for the two defensemen. And see him here coming in. He's the low man.
Up high. The puck is drilled. Jackets block that. Anisimov attempted to clear. Pressure coming. Joachim Lidstrom, jersey number 10. Originally the property of the Blue Jackets.
That's
play
right.
with him?
Yes, I did. And he actually went to Europe and played a couple years. Still resides in Columbus, Ohio, in the area. Him and his wife here in the offseason, and
get him signed up for the alumni.
Yeah, that's right. Hitchcock wanted him back. Liked the way he played, and he's found a home in St. Louis.
Right side Reeves with on. Tossed into the zone. McElhaney alertly plays that puck onto Savard. Letestu trying to lead Matt Calvert. Hustling back there is Butler. Paired with Gunnarsson. Off the wall. Pass a little high there for Ott. Savard will step up for the Jackets. Carries it in across the line. Ott now with the backhand. Cross ice. Gunnarsson looks to the right wing. Reeves will play it. And he dumps in. Again, McElhaney, ever active, will set it up for Wisniewski. James Wisniewski leads a rush up ice. A right wing feed that gets away from Dubinsky. Bouncing puck. Corey Trott trying to stand up Steen, who carries in and across the line, but Wisniewski quickly on it, onto Connaughton. Off the boards, Foligno. And the bouncing puck stopped to the line there by the captain, Backes. Turned over by Trott, albeit off the stick of Steen. Now Dubinsky will try to get something going on to James Wisniewski, who hammers in. Cole lets it go up high. Connaughton fired high and wide of the net. Approaching the 6-minute mark. Free-flowing opening period here.
They had the same thing last night in Buffalo. I don't think they had any whistles for almost 10 minutes.
Listening to the Blues telecast, I don't know if it was Darren Pang or John Kelly saying they'd be in Columbus by 10 o'clock.
Yeah, I heard that. Things slowed down after the first a little bit, but yeah, I think they played the first period in 28 minutes or something like that, which is very quick.
Very few whistles in that one. And similarly, it's same kind of start, but we get an offside call there. And with 13:35 left, we'll step aside. Jackets engaged tonight. Back with more after this.
This in St. Louis at Nationwide Arena. Let's look at the keys to the game, which are brought to you by Toyota. Play with pace. Jackets have done that so far. Got to get the feet moving. Play with pace. It's a fast league playing against a fast team. Roll up the sleeves. Let's get dirty tonight. Put the work in here. And no wait and see. And so far, early in the game, but I feel like they've started that way. Kind of let's get at it.
Cross ice. Bolmister. Onto that right side for Pietrangelo. Thrown up high. Pietrangelo unable to play it. The active stick there, and a good heads-up play by Hartnell. Bolmister. Can't make the play there. On the right wing, Reeves to the left side. Jumping up, across the line. Oshie looks for that puck in the corner. Schwartz with Stastny. Acquired as a free agent. Of course, his dad, Peter Stastny, an outstanding player who, too, played in St. Louis with the Blues. Bouwmeester, as we approach the 8-minute mark, crossing the line, handing it to Tarasenko. Good steal there by Murray, who tried to send Trapp away. This will be an icing call. And back in the building today and happy to be in Columbus, Ken Hitchcock, who, by the way, Jody, with a victory tonight, he will tie Dick Irvin, 4th all-time in wins in the National Hockey League. 692.
No way.
At 691. Not bad for a guy that never played.
It's not going to happen tonight, Jeff.
No, but
Wish him well on that one.
The next win will be his 692nd.
How about that? 4th all-time? Didn't say 6th.
4th all-time. Ties him with the late Dick Irvin, who coached Toronto and Montreal. Back when our producer, Eddie Milliken, was producing hockey games.
Oh, really?
Back in the 40s. Bouncing puck.
Writing that down.
Cleared out of the zone. Of course, Dick Irvin Jr., longtime hockey broadcaster and a Dandy Hall of Fame broadcaster. Of course, his dad, one of the all-time coaches. And Hitch is at some point going to join elite company, to say the least. Right wing boards. Up high, Tarasenko drops it back. Alex Steen takes it at center. Steen now stops at the line. Little nifty maneuver. But he couldn't get it across the line as he tried to avoid an offside.
Corey Trapp got in there, got on him, and took the puck. Good play by him. He's had some good shifts here to start this game.
Far side. Wenberg's attempt to clear fails from the corner. Berglund in pursuit. He returned last night from an injury.
He had a shoulder injury. He missed quite a bit of time last year with a similar injury, but this time just a week.
Skilly tried to cut in. Jackman takes him wide. Skilly right on it. He's looking to get on the score sheet. Goalless in 11 games. It's shoveled towards the net, blocked in front of Elliott. A backhand pass, and it's on to Lidstrom. Moving up his Jaskin, and the stop made there by McElhinney. Long shot by Bouwmeester, redirected but wide of the net. Pietrangelo steps off the point. Pietrangelo behind the net. The Blues look to shovel it out. Picked up on that right wing and cleared by Skilly. Bouwmeester looks off Gotch, now sends it off the wall to Gotch, acquired here in the last couple of weeks in a trade for Lapierre with Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that trade. I saw Gotch today riding the bike here with the St. Louis workout gear on. And
nice stop there by McElhinney. He'll cover up and hold on.
Gotch, a former first-round pick, playing center on the 4th line here for the St. Louis Blues.
How about the Elk and Elk injury report?
And there it is. And Matt Calvert came off the right side for the Blue Jackets. Back, good to have him back. Boone Jenner, we've seen him. Brian Gibbons is skating. Nathan Horton, hopefully, we hear some good news about him. Bobrovsky's healing up. And Jeremy Morin, not sure what the status is on him. I believe it's Jeremy Morin bobblehead night coming up in Rockford soon.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We'll keep you posted on that.
Backhanded there. Played by Schwartz and driven in by Butler. Rolling puck picked up there by Johansson. Streaking down the left side, Hartnell has got to hold the line. Now dealt into the corner. Johansson trying to fight off a check. Bouwmeester able to chip it free. Schwartz has got it on the left wing. His clearing pass off Pietrangelo, who will play it. Backpedaling away from Johansson before sending it out to center ice. Here's Oshie. Oshie right in on McElhinney. He'll cover up with 9:27 left. St. Louis with a 4-2 shot advantage, but no score as we've just passed the midway point of this opening period.
Scoreless game here at Nationwide Arena between the Jackets and the Blues. Hey, tonight on Fox Sports Live on Fox Sports 1, it's a battle of the NBA's best as the Warriors and Hawks tip off in a potential NBA Finals matchup. LeBron and the Cavs look to match a franchise record with their 13th straight win as they take on the Pacers. And all of that coming up on Fox Sports Live, Fox Sports 1 tonight. Watch it after our game.
Face off to McElhaney's right. Steen will take the draw. Dubinsky wins the draw. Steen's stick breaks. Dubinsky right wing for Corey Trop, who's got to reach back behind him. Steps aside from Gunnarsson. Here's Dubinsky moving in. Save Elliott. Rebound, scores. The Jackets are on the board. And Nick Foligno, who has struggled to score goals, I believe, will finally find the back of the net.
Let's go way back to the face-off here. You mentioned a broken stick. But how about the reaction here? David Savard gets it up. And watch this up ice. Corey Trop knows he's going to take a hit right there. Takes the hit, gets his head up. Unbelievable play to Dubinsky. And if you're not scoring goals, or you're struggling to score goals, you go to the net like this. Nick Foligno bats it out of the air. Look at that. What a shot. That's got to feel good.
You could see the relief as he looked to the heavens there. You know, talking to Foligno this morning, I got this ritual with Johansson, and I didn't get to see Johansson this morning because I had a coffee with Ken Hitchcock. But Foligno came in after, and he said, maybe you can change my luck too. And he said, if you do, I'm going to come in every morning.
Oh, boy. You're going to have quite a...
They're lined up
You're
now.
going to have a lineup there. Let's go back to the blue off Johansson for Hitchcock. Maybe we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, well, he wasn't very happy. But it was an interesting coffee with Hitch, and you got a chance to visit with him as well. And he's always full of stories. Just divide them by two.
That's right. Yeah.
Sorry, Hitch.
Well, how about that play by Corey Trop on that goal, Jeff? That was heads-up play to take that hit, keep the puck.
Skilly using his speed. Oh, my! His stick broke in the shaft, and he could not get a shot away. He was in, home clear.
Yeah, he leaned on that stick. It went in two pieces. You can see a piece there in the corner. He did not look too happy about that. He knew that was a missed opportunity.
Foligno's 19th from Dubinsky and Trop. Jackets win a face-off and march up ice in transition and are able to find the back of the net. Nick Foligno. One goal in his previous 15 games. First goal in 10. And that's certainly a major lift off his shoulders.
Yeah. His teammates will be excited for him. We saw that with Atkinson a couple games ago.
Oh, a quick shot there. Turned aside by McElhaney off the stick of Reeves. Hartnell. Great emotion in the building here tonight. Great crowd. And that's the norm when the Jackets and the Blues hook up.
That's right. It used to be a pretty big rival. We'd see them quite a few times this season.
It was a game in recent memory, the last year or two, that the Blues were riding a similar winning streak, and the Jackets brought it to an end, and they'll try to do that here tonight. They lead 1-0. Johansson trying to walk around Gunnarsson. Does. Atkinson look for Hartnell. Down the right wing goes Schwartz. Jaden Schwartz, it's kicked away from him, alertly so there by Murray. Scooped up inside St. Louis territory, and Gunnarsson, the former Toronto Maple Leaf, acquired in that trade last summer for Roman Polak. Gunnarsson more of an offensive defenseman than Polak, who's that stay-at-home type.
Yeah, Polak has a lot of size. Patrolled the blue line for the St. Louis Blues for the first part of his career. But I'll tell you what, he's steady back there.
Here's Bouwmeester. Head up, looks to the left wing boards. Back is able to redirect it into Columbus territory. McElhaney off the wall, picked up there by Backus, able to keep it in. No, they call offside with 6:25 remaining here in this opening period. And just a reminder, as you enjoy a cold one, look forward to Miller time later in tonight's contest, brought to you by Miller Lite.
You mentioned Matty Calvert. Didn't play the game in Tampa. Stayed that night. Got back Monday. So stayed Sunday, Monday. Got back into Columbus. Finally got back with the team. And we mentioned in the open, you mentioned he lost 10 pounds. And he kind of said that with a smirk on his face, because we asked him how he felt. And he said, I feel quicker. So excited to be back with his team. But boy, he's had a tough go. Boy, look at the beginning of the year. He's had some sickness in the summer, he said. Had a bad wrist. And it's taken time. And then we saw the Matty Calvert of old back in the building, but then catches that. He said he's never felt like that before the sickness that he just had last week.
A couple of injuries earlier on this season with just getting his legs, and then he hit with that bad case of the flu.
Before the Jackets hit the ice, get ready to join the battle on Blue Jackets Live on Fox Sports Ohio. Blue Jackets Live is brought to you by your Central Ohio Toyota dealers.
Look at Dubinsky from this draw, and he wins this one. His previous face-off win resulted in a Jackets goal. And as the puck sails over the glass and up into the crowd, we'll step aside. 5:58 left. Jackets Nick Foligno lights the lamp. Great hand-eye coordination.
Jackets here at Nationwide Arena behind the bench with Craig Hartsburg. I would imagine the goal is a sign of pretty good play so far. Are you happy with it?
Yeah, obviously the goal is huge, but I think our commitment as a group to play defense so far has been great, and this is a team that's going to challenge that all night long.
And you know the Blues will limit opportunities, so you have to make the most of every time up the ice, right?
Yeah, you're not going to get a whole ton of them, but we got to make sure they don't get many on us.
Simple formula there. If you have an opportunity, put it in. And the wily defenseman, the veteran, Craig Hartsburg, loves that the team is committed to defense early in this game.
You've got to love his attitude and just how honest he is in each and every one of those bench interviews.
Oh, they're awesome.
He tells it like it is.
No nonsense.
Oh. Now, he and Ken Hitchcock were former assistants under Dineen, as you get a look at Hitch, in Philadelphia with the Flyers. That's going way back, and there's a great friendship between those two.
Bill Dineen.
Bill Dineen. Yep.
Because there's a few Dineens in
yes,
the
there
hockey
is.
world.
Bill Dineen, former Flyers coach. How about the Flyers? Your former teammate and great friend, it was announced, is returning. Timonen.
Yeah, Kimmo Timonen had the blood clots, and scary situation, but he's come down a long road, and a day he's been waiting for is to get on the ice. So excited for Kimmo Timonen.
He's been cleared by the doctors. The blood clots in the lungs are gone. Here, Murray moving in, broken up there by the Blues. Still has the blood clots in the legs, but we wish Kimmo Timonen all the best in his efforts to return. Long shot there off the glove of McElhinney. Got enough of it to send it over top of the net.
Curtis just got the back part of that glove on it, the bottom part of it, I should say. Couldn't catch it, but he did block it.
Stastny tied up by Murray. That's Reeves in the corner there. Stastny, Hartnell able to clear it away from Ott. Jackets will be called for icing here. Watch this stop here by McElhinney.
It's a quick shot. Watch this. Right off the bottom part of that glove. You see him squeeze it. That's a great shot. Phantom cam. Good reaction. And there he's probably thinking, where did that go? Gladly went over the net.
Face off to his left. Johansson will take the draw. Wins it. Played by Murray off the glass and out of play.
How about this sequence right here? Icing by Hartnell, who's in an uncomfortable position because he had Steve Ott bearing down on him. And then the face-off is in their own end. Murray gets it and puts it over the glass.
I thought it went off the glass and out of play, but they're saying it directly went out.
No, you can see by Murray's reaction because they won the face-off cleanly. And then Murray tried to just chip it. Like you said, it looked like it went off the glass, but it went directly over. Jackets now on this big, all-important penalty kill.
Number 27, Ryan already permitted for delay game. That's the penalty, 15:29.
15:29, the time of the delay of game penalty. This Blues Hockey Club, second best in power play, 41 for 170. They're missing their primary gunner on the power play, and that's Shattenkirk. Oh, nice stop there from point-blank range. The left pad there of McElhinney. Outstanding stop. Shattenkirk, an all-star, 24-point Jacket shorthanded. Dubinsky settles it down. Elliott the stop. Rebound, the scramble in front.
How about that poise of Mark Letestu to stand in there on top of the paint, wait for the puck to get down in front of him, and get two opportunities at it right in front of Elliott.
Rimmed around the boards. Played up high here by Steen. Steen looking for Tarasenko. Jackets have kept him quiet so far. Tarasenko, sixth in the National Hockey League. An electrifying player, great speed. As Ken Hitchcock said this morning, he plays in traffic. I said, there's a comparison to Pavel Bure, the former player. He said, no, he was on the perimeter. This guy plays in traffic.
Yeah. That's impressive. And you know what? His power going from like 0 to 60 in a short distance is very, very impressive. He's got some slick moves to go with it too.
Up high here, this is Butler. Butler dishes far side. Rink wide, the active stick there of Anisimov. Read that play alertly as Steen looked cross ice. Stastny carries in. Oshie will play it. The Olympic hero for Team USA. Far side. About a year ago now, last February.
That's right, in the shootouts there.
Left wing Foligno, the goal scorer for the Jackets tonight. Fires his shot. That one is blocked by Butler, picked up by Oshie. Foligno not giving up on it. Cole losing it to Foligno. Great work by the Jackets forward here on the penalty kill. 2:35 left. Final seconds of the Murray penalty. Picked up there by Berglund, and offside the call as Murray steps out.
Impressive forecheck by Foligno there, but let's look at these saves. Curtis McElhinney is going to face his first shot. Makes a save, but Backes is right there. Look at that empty net. No. Curtis McElhinney sticks the pad out. Here's Dubinsky. Nice a lot. Look at Mark Letestu. Waits for the puck to come down, stands his ground. How about that play there? Doesn't chase behind the net. He's a defender, stays in front, always in the right position, Mark Letestu.
Number 1 in hockey IQ in the hockey club.
Oh, there's no question. You can see it more and more in the details of the game.
Bouwmeester dumps it behind the net. There's Fedor Tutin, takes a hit there from Ott. A little more than 2 minutes remaining here in this opening period. If you've joined us late, midway through, Nick Foligno with his 19th of the season. The Jackets lead 1-0. Johansson into the slot. Quick shot. It's blocked before it gets through to Elliott. Standing ground there in front. Bouwmeester. Johansson gets it back. Jackets very aggressive, and they score again. Cam Atkinson, I believe, the last to touch it, as Johansson was all over the Blues deep in their zone. And the Jackets score and take a 2-0 lead.
Great job by Ryan Johansson, Cam Atkinson. How about this guy? Blue Jackets now have got 3 or 4 turnovers tonight, takeaways. Look at this one. Picks the puck. Ryan Johansson finds Hartnell in front. Watch his puck. Off Hartnell's head. Off the crossbar. Cam Atkinson. That's 2 goals from the paint. Hartnell off the head. He'll get an assist for that. Lucky bounce off the back of the net. And how about Atkinson? Another one out of the air. Couple very similar goals in the fact that they've been swatted out of the air by the Blue Jackets. They're looking at it to see if there was a high stick by Hartnell. Sorry, they just had to see. They review every goal. So there they reviewed it. Good goal. Back to you, Jeff.
Atkinson's 10th. And it's that hard work down low that results in that goal. Tarasenko had his pocket picked there by Savard.
That's it. It's very impressive. One thing that stands out right away, Jeff, is the takeaways by the Columbus Blue Jackets. You mentioned Nick Foligno on that penalty kill. A couple times in the defensive zone. Johansson, Atkinson. Shows the guys are very, very engaged here tonight.
They needed this type of effort against the hottest team in the National Hockey League. 13 straight games the Blues have gone without a regulation loss. 12 of them in the win column. 7 straight. 5 in a row on the road. And the Jackets have played marvelously here in this first period. The kind of game you'd expect this team to play.
Physical. Dubinsky, we just saw Dubinsky lay a big hit. Jared Bowles had a few hits. Corey Trotz made some good plays. Good first period so far for the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Well, into the final minute, Hartnell and Johansson rightfully pick up assists on that goal.
Unique assist for Hartnell, we'll say.
Connaughton off the wall. Stastny has to wait as Oshie clears the zone. Now backhands it back in. Connaughton on to Wisniewski. Shots are even at 8. Jackets lead 2-0 as the final seconds tick off here in the opening period. TJ Oshie on to Jackman. Redirected deep into the zone, and that will do it. After 1 period of play here at Nationwide Arena, goals by Those two guys, Foligno and Atkinson. And the Jackets lead 2-0. Martin Brodeur, now a key member of the executive of the hockey club, will join me. The future Hall of Famer is next. Columbus Blue Jackets hockey on Fox Sports Ohio, brought to you by Huntington Bank. At Huntington, you can bank like a real fan. Get your Blue Jackets debit card at BlueJacketsBanking.com. And by Ohio Health, the official healthcare provider of your Columbus Blue Jackets. And by 5-Hour Energy Shots, now with a new improved taste. Back inside Nationwide Arena, getting set for second period play. Jackets lead 2-0 on goals by Foligno and Atkinson. And how about those IGS Energy performers?
How about the Corey Trott making an impact here tonight with his line mate Nick Foligno. 2 of those goals batted out of the air. Similar style though, going to the net and stopping, waiting for your opportunity. Beating the goaltender Elliott. There's a smile. There's a smile from Cam Atkinson. You see one on Foligno too. It's got to feel good to contribute, especially when your team is struggling.
We talked in the open about the Jackets having balanced scoring lines. They've got goals from 2 different lines so far. And they'll look to continue that here in the second period. What do we expect from Ken Hitchcock? You played for Hitch here in Columbus. What do you think he said to his team after that first period?
Well, you could probably guess. It probably wasn't very quiet. Probably right to the point. And the Jackets probably know that. They're ready for whatever push that the St. Louis Blues have coming. But I wouldn't say it was very quiet in that room.
Foligno sends it ahead. Trop trying to get by Stastny, who defends. Reaching for it there is Gunnarsson. Foligno trying to fish it free. Trop, strong on the wall. Throws it in front. Ever alert there was Elliott to cut down that pass and then cover up.
All right, let's take a look at this tonight. When the Blue Jackets are playing well, the forwards are helping the defense defend. And watch this. 3 forwards are highlighted. Watch Ryan Johansson, number 19, helps out Jack Johnson there with the puck, gets his feet moving. Key to that situation, and then has support. He had support on the right with Cam Atkinson, but chose to give it to 43 Hartnell there. Great job helping out their defensemen in their own end.
Jackets win another face-off in the offensive zone and are pressuring here as the Blues are back on their heels after the Johansson draw was won. Up on that right wing. Schwartz can't make the play. Hartnell looks rink wide. Off the bench comes Skilly. Sends it off the wall. Skilly. Battling. Move. Bolmister. On for Schwartz. Flips it backhand to Pietrangelo. Settles down that rolling puck. Tosses it towards the net. It's off the mark. Picked up there by Gotch. Dump behind the net. Ryan Murray will play it. Up high. The shot sails wide of the net there off the stick of Cole. Another shot goes off the side of the net. A third attempt there by Jackman. And holding on is McElhinney. Well, we talked about Jaden Schwartz, who is second in goals on this hockey club, and quite a story about Jaden, who, of course, lost his sister, Mandy, a couple of years back. He switched to the number 17 in her honor. She was a hockey player, Jody, at Yale. And, of course, the family from Wilcox, Saskatchewan. And I'll tell you what, this young man has really developed into a player, but he will always remember his younger sister, Mandy.
That's a sad story, and, you know, for him to honor her with that number is a nice little gesture. But the way he's playing in the National Hockey League, I'd say she'd be pretty proud of her.
Absolutely. Centered here for Reeves. Reeves dumps it wide. Out of the net comes McElhinney. Very aggressive tonight, Jody, on those pucks. He's coming out, trying to set them up for his defenders. Quick shot there. Sails wide off the stick of Reeves.
Good confidence doing it, too, Curtis McElhinney. Playing that puck, no hesitation. Something that he and goalie coach Ian Clark would work on daily. I know Sergei Bobrovsky did that too while he was healthy and in the lineup. So big part of the game. They understand that, the goaltenders.
Well, my guest in the intermission, Marty Brodeur, off the air, very complimentary about the play of McElhinney in that first period.
That's good. I mean, that's a pretty large compliment from one of the best we've seen play in our generation. And he's covered a couple generations in his 22-year career.
I asked him if he's going to pull the trigger on, this is off the air as well, you can pull the trigger here on a trade now that your management, oh no, he says, they may ask for my input, but it'll be a while before I do that. But obviously he's got aspirations to become a general manager in the league.
Yeah, well, nice advantage for him. He played with this group that's on the ice. He's been in the room. He's seen some different situations with these players, so pretty neat insight for the GM to be able to ask a guy that was in there, hey, you know, we write on what we see with these people and what they're doing, and definitely an asset to have him in the organization for a number of reasons.
I told him if he can control Hitchcock, he's halfway through. Loves Hitch. He said he can learn a lot from Hitch. And, of course, Doug Armstrong, the general manager. Approaching the 3-minute mark, Dubinsky across the line. Puck rolling on edge. Corey Trapp, boy, since he's been put with Dubinsky, he has really stepped up his game.
Well, he has, and he has that kind of carefree attitude. He knows his role. He enjoys his role. But he says he doesn't try to play that perfect game. Forget about it. I'm just going to play hockey, and you can see that translates well for him to be able to just play, especially on this line.
Jackets will get a penalty here for tripping as they haul down Oshie. Briefly, the rookie referee tonight, Kendrick Nicholson, thought, well, no, I don't think that was...
Columbus, minor penalty number 51, 2 minutes tripping.
Let's take a look at it here. Play at the net. You see inside position by Oshie. He gets around Tootin has to haul him down. I don't mind that by Tootin. When you have Oshie with the puck along with the goaltender, sometimes you got to take penalties. I'd call that a good penalty.
3:12 the time the penalty. 0 for 1. They had 2 shots in their first power play. And the Jackets dump it down. Backus made an outstanding attempt there from in close, but equal to the task with a terrific stop was McElhaney. Now Bouwmeester in a foot race here with Wenberg. Tell you what, Bouwmeester is one of the fastest skaters in the league, and Wenberg held his own there.
Yeah, he's effortless skater, they'd call it, Bouwmeester. Plays eats up a lot of minutes on the ice, and he makes it look very easy with that skating stride he has.
Jackets, Matt Calvert on that right wing. Schwartz defending. Calvert trying to chip it free. Calvert and Letestu work up front. Now Letestu heads off. Puck in Jackets territory is Dubinsky, who sails it over the glass. And they're saying it went off the glass and up into the crowd, so there's no penalty there.
Columbus Blue Jackets hockey is brought to you by Nationwide, the official sponsor of the Columbus Blue Jackets.
We were just talking about Jay Bouwmeester. He had the longest Ironman streak. Games played consecutively without it being injured. 737. That ended this year. And he got injured, and he was out for a bit, and they missed him. He played 9 minutes in the first period here tonight. He plays right around 30 every night. Ken Hitchcock mentioned that was an adjustment for him, being out of the lineup and coming back.
Steen lets one fly. The traffic in front, and Backus sends a rebound off the side of the net. Reaching for it on that far side. Matt Calvert battles. Tripped up. And Calvert is slow to get up.
It looked like he might have
hit his head.
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
Kind of whipped it as he went down. He caught the back of his skate, it looked like. Kind of got tangled up. He went down fast and hard. We'll keep an eye on him on that bench.
I can't get a break. And if he does, it's a bad one.
Yeah.
Anisimov leads Johansson. Sprints free. In the clear. Short-handed. Walks in. Shoots. Scores. Short-handed goal. The Jackets' second of the season. 20th of the year for Johansson. And it's 3-0.
That man right there, Anisimov, makes a great play on the penalty kill. Breaks it up right there with a stick. He knows where to give the puck. Ryan Johansson, in the words of Todd Richards, has been driving the team. Watch this here, one-on-one with the goaltender. Keeps it on his forehand. And just snaps it past Elliott. Nice job by the Blue Jackets on the penalty kill there, Jeff.
Johansson's second point of the night. 20th goal of the season. Tootin steps out of the box. It's 3-0. Shot there on McElhaney, and he will cover up and hold on. Ryan Johansson using his reach and his speed to get his 20th of the season, and as we mentioned, the second shorthanded goal for the team.
Watch his shot. See, the puck's on his stick. He's not stick handling. He keeps it there, makes a little adjustment. And that quick little thought of, hey, I know where the puck is. My head is up. I'm going to find a hole. Kind of waited for the goalie to move and just snap. Just past the goaltender, Elliott. He's a confident player right now in Ryan Johansson with his Columbus Blue Jackets team.
He's driving the bus right now. And I might say that tonight, based on their performance, the bus is full. Unassisted goal. His first shorthanded goal. And now Atkinson through and across the line. Holmister rides him off. Picked up here by Schwartz. Approaching the 6-minute mark of the second period as Reeves sends it in. Connaughton will touch up, and it's icing. Well, we want to certainly wish Jay Coyer, supervisor of off-ice officials, who's being treated at Mount Carmel Hospital, all the best on behalf of us all here with Fox Sports Ohio and the Blue Jackets. Jay and the entire off-ice staff is taking care of business here at the arena, but wish you a speedy recovery following your pending surgery, and hope to see you back here real soon.
Yeah, we're thinking of you, Jay.
From the drop. Shovel off into the corner. Loose puck picked up by Dubinsky. Hands it to Connaughton. Moves in. Wrist shot. That sails wide of the net. Koch tried to get a stick on it. Dubinsky attempted. It's moved out of the zone. Now Reeves hustles down the off wing, but Connaughton there to defend. Reeves unable to play it. Connaughton tosses it off into the near corner. 13 minutes. 32 seconds left. This is Foligno. On to Connaughton. Knocked down. Oh boy, watch out.
Well, that was Foligno reacting to a hit on Connaughton, and he might have got the worst of it as he ran into the dasher. It looks fine now. He didn't like the way Connaughton was hit.
Gaskin can't make the play. Backhanded here for Foligno. Down that right wing, Corey Trop. Foligno first across the line. Trop heads off to the bench. Foligno waits for reinforcements, tosses it behind the net. Nisimov attempts to play and does! Throws it in front. Wraparound attempt there by Skilly. Yet another one of the Jackets looking to get off the schneid. Jackets playing a 4-line game, and all the lines are effective here tonight.
Yeah, they really are, Jeff. And right from the drop of the puck, they've been engaged and playing the same way. Every shift, they're coming out in waves at the St. Louis Blues.
Elliott with a stop there. Jackets with 3 goals on 12 shots. On the Anisimov, or on the Johansson goal, you can credit an assist to Artem Anisimov. Able to spring that puck free. So it's Johansson's 20th, assisted by Anisimov. All rights of this broadcast are reserved in any rebroadcast, recording, retransmission, telecommunication to the public or other unauthorized use of the broadcast without the express written consent of the Columbus Blue Jackets is expressly prohibited.
You talk about the shots, but a stat that jumps out to me after the first period was the takeaways for the Blue Jackets. They have 4, credited with 4. I thought they had a couple more. Blues had none.
Oh, save there by Elliott. I tell you what, Elliott hasn't faced the barrage of shots, but even though he's been beaten for 3 goals, he's also made a couple of key saves.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that.
Fedor-Tootin on for Jack Johnson. Right wing Atkinson picked off there by Backus. Carried it across the line and offside. 11:52 left here in the second period. Columbus 3. The St. Louis Blues, no score. Here, the shorthanded goal by Johansson.
One's got a job on the team, and that man right there, Corey Trop, in and out of the lineup, healthy scratch, waits for his opportunity. Well, he's got an opportunity tonight. He's on a new line. He's with Dubinsky and Foligno. And boy, does he take full advantage. Takes a big hit there, finds Dubinsky, And then Foligno puts that one in. Watch this work here. Corey Trop, he's got 2 St. Louis Blues on him. He knows where the puck is. It's in his skates. He's not going to lose this battle. Stays with it the whole way. And makes a little play out front towards the net. Good decisions. Good hard work by Corey Trop. Everyone's got their job to do, and he's doing it well here tonight.
Tell you what, Hitch is doing a coaching job. Well, there it's 4-0 now. Redirected by Corey Trop. The shot from up high. Trop gets a stick on it. And the celebration continues here at Nationwide. And we're going to get a goaltending change, I think. Jake Allen will come in for Elliott.
Well, Corey Trop, you saw a little celebration at the bench. Pretty good reason for that. First goal of the season, and watch him go. He's in front of the net. He's seen 2 guys score in that dirty area tonight. He's battling with Bouwmeester, gets his stick on it, and then here's the celebration, and that feels good. Good job by Corey Trop. Earned his ice time a few games ago. And there it is. He's practiced that a few times, and now he gets to use it.
And as we mentioned, on in relief is Jake Allen, who recorded a shutout at Buffalo last night.
That line's worked out pretty good tonight, that Dubinsky-Foligno-Trop line. Sorry, Jeff.
Oh, no. They have been outstanding. And quite frankly, the Jackets as a team have certainly showed up for this one.
They sure have, all 4 lines. And you mentioned in the open, we went through the lines, and you mentioned how balanced they are. What's the word you used? And I agree that Matt Calvert, Letestu, Jared Boll, that's the 4th line. I think that matches up very well with Hitchcock's 4th line of Steve Ott. We know him, the agitator. He's been around a while. Gotch, the journeyman centerman, former first-round pick, and Ryan Reeves, the physical presence on the right-hand side.
Face off to the right. Allen, who comes in cool, able to steer it aside. Here across the line. Trying to throw it in front there was Butler. Played along the boards. Up high, long shot by Gunnarsson, stick to side by McElady. We've yet to reach the midway point of this hockey game. And if you've joined us late, you've missed a dandy here. 4-0. Jackets lead. They were up 2-0 after one have added 2 goals here. A little more than 3 minutes apart, and an icing call against the Jackets.
And I like Foligno's leadership. He had an interview between the first and second period with Dave Metzel, and he says, we've got to keep going at them. And then, I mean, those words couldn't be more true. I mean, that's what they've got to do. They understand that. He was like, yeah, great. We have a 2-0 lead after the first period, but we can do nothing else but keep going at this team, the St. Louis Blues.
On that Trop goal, his first of the year, credit assist to Tootin and Foligno, and a penalty of coming here to the Jackets, and some pushing and shoving here now.
Well, Hartman's trying to draw another 2 here. He was in a stick battle and came down on the top of the stick. I think it was Reeves' stick, and it knocked the stick right out of the St. Louis Blues player's hand, and referee in the far corner called that. The Jackets here on their 3rd penalty kill of the night. Have to get back to work here. Here it is. Oh, that was after the fact, but you see Pietrangelo picking a stick up. Then he pokes at Reeves, tries to get him to react, maybe suck him into 2 minutes, but he did not bite on that one.
0 for 2 with 3 shots. Jackets score a shorthanded goal. That by Johansson. Slashing call against Hartnell. Long shot, sails wide. Backus now knocked down by Savard. Schwartz steps into him, up high. Shot by Steen, saved McElady. And Backus turns away from Savard there.
That was a heck of a play by Jaden Schwartz. There was already a player in there. He comes in with a physical presence. Watch this. It's a one-on-one. Watch Schwartz. Physical, and on the way down, makes the pass out. And that kind of fools Letestu, who was in that support position. But that just shows you the effort of that young player. On the way down, stays with it, gets the puck out for a good play at net.
Puck sent the length of the ice here. Allen He'll tee it up. Steen, Pietrangelo. Rink wide for Steen. Tell you what, for talking about him in the open, Tarasenko has had a quiet night. I think you can give the Jackets credit for that.
Yes, no question. And something about Tarasenko, I noticed last night in that Buffalo game, he got hit a couple times. Big hit, took some big hits. And that's something that's going to happen as you get noticed around the league. Players are going to take runs at you. So he's a guy that's got to adjust to that. But there's going to be an adjustment period because I'm sure he didn't get used to hitting in the KHL when he was over there.
Tell you what, that's a great point. We saw the same thing earlier on this season with Johansson and his quick start.
Absolutely.
Approaching the 11-minute mark. Less than a minute left on the power play. Down that right side goes Bullmister. Tootin defends. Jaskin to the point. Gunnarsson, Jaskin, back for Stastny. Oshie cruising in the high slot. Bullmister, top of the circle, on for Oshie. Deflects it wide. Stastny. Jackets doing a great job collapsing in front there of McElhinney. Off the side and a goal. Power play goal. McElhinney moved to the near side, could not recover, and the quick attempt gets the Blues on the board with a power play goal.
And that was in the middle of the rink, at the blue line. And it's a pass to the wall, and it's Bullmister right there. And that goes short, but wide. And watch this angle. That's a tough angle. But he knows, Stastny knows that McElhinney's might not get back over there. He takes the chance, shows it off, throws it off the short side. And they're on the board.
Stastny with his 10th goal and 4th power play talent. 4-1. Wisniewski avoids a hit. Right side. Bull. Jackets have got to limit the damage here. This is a very explosive team. Dangerous.
Well, and that's why Foligno said we have to go at them, but they've also got to stay out of the penalty box. 3 is too much. You know, you kill off a couple, that's fine, but there's more discipline now in the rest of the game.
Good to see Calvert back on the ice. Tries to send it towards the St. Louis net. Squeezed out there by a pair of the Blues. And now, 12 minutes in, the outlet pass here for Berglund. Berglund for Reeves. Reeves with a long shot. That sails wide. Jaskin, left wing. Murray defends. Less than 8 minutes left. Johansson trying to fish that puck free. Jaskin along the wall. It finally comes free to the Blues. They rim it around the boards. And it sails all the way back into St. Louis territory. Back to scoop up the loose puck is Butler. Bullmister and Gunnarsson draw the assist at 11-14. Puck turned over. Here comes Atkinson. Moving in. Down and making the stop there is Jake Allen. And he will hold on. 7:24 left. Corey Tropp, he's got reason to celebrate his first of the year.
Nationwide, where the Jackets hold a 4-1 lead with Brad Larson. Brad, simply what's behind this from your perspective?
We're working hard. We're working hard, get rewarded, going to the net, and, you know, we got a couple good bounces.
Talk about getting rewarded. Corey Tropp with a goal and an assist tonight. What does that do for this bench when a guy's having that kind of a night? First goal of the year, that type of thing?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, again, going to the hard areas, gets a stick on it, nice tip, and gets our 4th goal for us.
Brad Larson was a similar player as Corey Tropp. Went to the hard areas, worked hard every shift, and I'm sure he's proud to see that reward for Corey Tropp. Jackets, though, have got to keep their foot on the gas here, Jeff.
Absolutely. You do not want to let the Blues back in this one. Hartnell behind the net. Hartnell up high for Murray. Gets away from him. Race for the puck. McElhinney will play it. Tarasenko directing traffic there. Points to Jaden Schwartz to move in on the forecheck. And here's Murray now back at center. Murray. And play whistle down. Dave.
After every Blue Jackets game, Fox Sports Ohio breaks down the game. We talk to the players and also Coach Richards on Blue Jackets Live. It's presented by IGS Energy. IGS Energy. Take control of your natural gas costs. Enroll today at IGSenergy.com.
Jack Johnson, there he is. And He's a guy that's a leader in this room. He's been around a long time, plays a lot of heavy minutes. Asked him about trying to keep it fun around this kind of losing streak they got going on, and he said, you have to. We're playing in the National Hockey League. We're a bunch of guys having a lot of fun, but got to get the winning feeling back in here, Jack Johnson says. That's how you have fun. Love hearing that from a leader. And he's right.
Absolutely. A lot more fun winning, isn't it?
It's a lot more fun, and sometimes you got to keep it light when you're losing to try to get, make sure you hate. Let's not get too wrapped up in being down because we're losing, but let's start having some fun, and that might correlate into a few wins.
Here's Foligno with a shot that sails wide. Jack Johnson on the right point. Johnson lets one go off the shoulder there of Allen. Now Connaughton. He'll send one in. That's deflected by Corey Trop, and that puck is a round Trop all night long.
Yeah, good job by Connaughton to get that puck in there. As a defenseman, when you see the forward in there, you want to get it in there right away. And as a forward working there, trying to battle and get in that position to block the goaltender, there's nothing you want more than to get that defenseman to get the puck in.
Skilly walks to the front, fires the shot. He hung on. Nobody had any idea where it was except Skilly. But Allen saw it at the last moment to turn it aside. Here's Skilly again. And the stop made by Allen. 5:29 left. Anxious moments at both ends. Great effort there by Skilly. Hangs onto the puck. Fires in the stop. Who's on a power play?
And it's Curtis McElhinney. Not that first shot necessarily, but how about that second one? Hey, that first one was good too. What am I talking about? That's not traffic. Fights it off. Look at all that net. Ohio Health, great save. Curtis McElhinney. Two of them there, Jeff. 2 for 1.
And that second one is the one that certainly caught the eye of the future Hall of Famer, first ballot Hall of Famer, Marty Brodeur.
How about that?
A little more than 5 minutes left. McElhinney is not the same goaltender that he was earlier this season or at any time or any point in his career here with the Jackets. He has changed his style, and it is certainly a lot more effective for him. Calvert drilled there by Barrett Jackman. And they may go.
Oh, yeah. Matty Calvert here. He's been out with that bad wrist, but you're going to hit him like that. Doesn't matter. Good Manitoba boy. See how he waited there?
Yeah.
And what he was doing, he was waiting for Jackman to throw. Go ahead and throw. I know where you're at. I know where it's coming from. He waited, let him throw, and then he came back with his own. Great job by Matty Calvert. He didn't wait for the lines. That wasn't a pause to hope the linesman came in. That was good timing by Matt Calvert.
Give this young man, boy, all the credit in the world. He gives it everything he's got at every shift, and he's not giving up there. He still continues to talk to Barrett Jackman.
And that's why they love him here in Columbus, Ohio. Here's the hit. He's going in first. He doesn't have to go in first. He could have waited and let Jackman go in, but he's like, no, I'm going to get this. Takes a hard hit, gets up off the ice and says, hey, let's do this. Good job by him. Throws the rights. Jackman was waiting to get his left going. Right there, that was kind of that neat moment of the fight where he says, all right, go ahead, throw it. I'll take it, but I'm going to come back with another one. Gotta love him. Everybody's standing up for that one, Jeff.
So are you. You kind of like to see that, don't you?
I don't mind it. Were you bothered by it?
Not at all.
Okay. Just making sure.
Oh, and a great shot there, and an equally impressive stop by Allen.
How about the play by Anisimov at the blue line? Good play there to keep the puck in.
Up high, Murray chops it cross ice. Settled down here by Savard. Top of the circle, drills it. Allen the stop. Rebound comes back to the point. Skilly shovels it backhand for Murray. Unable to play it. And they're going to say it's an icing call. The Blues will be back in their own zone defending.
Watch this play here. Puck's going to go up to the blue line. Watch Anisimov, 42. Steals it. Keeps it inside the blue line. Heads up play to Jack Skilly. Well, I tell you what, when you're on that blue line like that, smiling. When you're on the blue line, Jeff, it gets a little bit tense. They're already there with a nice little play to keep it in. How about Jack Johnson? Or, sorry, Jack Skilly to curl with his head up. You see that pass? Nice attempt. He's had a couple of chances here tonight.
You saw moments ago the takeaways handedly in the Jackets' favor, and Jody, you commented after the first period you didn't think they were necessarily accurate or didn't give the Jackets enough credit. But officially tonight, they are credited with 5 takeaways.
Yeah, I think there's been a couple more, and it just... Todd Richards talks about the forecheck when the team is playing well. And how about on pucks? You have to skate to get on pucks in this league. You have to take away time and space, especially when you're playing one of the best teams in the league in the St. Louis Blues. And when you get there and be able to cause those takeaways, that's a very telling stat.
Foligno scores his second for the slot. You got 1, I got 2. And Nick Foligno has his second, and the drought is over.
Oh boy, did he fire that. That's a slap shot, top shelf. Nick Foligno. His own version of a spinorama. Watch this. Feels good, right? Good play by Dubinsky behind the net, protecting the puck. This puck ends up on the sideboards. Foligno, puck off the skate to the stick. Watch this. Unleashes that over the glove of Allen.
Sorry. Nick Foligno becomes the second Blue Jacket to hit the 20-goal plateau. Earlier tonight, it was Johansson shorthanded.
He was stuck at 18, Jeff, for quite a while. And that was his career high in the season.
And the 5-goal outburst for the Jackets, their most goals since the 27th of December when they beat the Bruins 6-2 here at Nationwide. Foligno with 20 goals in the year, 2 here tonight. And it's the Blue Jackets with a 5-1 lead with 3:18 left.
Well, and how about let's go back to the last game here. Blue Jackets at home. Nick Foligno did not have a great outing. And that's not, Nick Foligno knew that. These guys are hard enough on themselves. He responded tonight with already 2 goals. He's focused, he's engaged along with all of his teammates.
4th time this season that Foligno's found the back of the net twice in 1 game. Jackets came in tonight, as we mentioned from the outset, outscored 13-8 since the All-Star break. Going 1-3. Tonight, they've got 5 goals, almost equaling that output. And they still have better than a period to go. Oh, there. The shot by Murray. Allen able to play it. Now we got Reeves and Jared Bull, and they've got to be separated.
Well, Jared Bull took a couple runs at Reeves early in the first period. Reeves didn't even look at him. And now, with the Blue Jackets up 5-1, Reeves is trying to get something going their way. He's trying to get Jared to go. Jared's saying, no, now's not the time to do it. I'll decide. Off to the right side of your screen here. Some friendly conversation. And then as he realizes that he's not going to go, he keeps poking the bear there, Jared Bull. But good job by Jared just to say, hey, we could have gone earlier. We decided not to. We're up 5-1. I think I'll just play.
Cole sends it cross ice, looking for Schwartz there. The puck played and held by McElhinney.
Good job by Curtis. He's looked strong here tonight, Jeff. You mentioned his game is different. You talked about his style, but how about his health? He got run into by Nick Foligno, and I keep going back to this because it's important. He had a concussion. He gets thrown in the net. You know, coming back from a concussion is hard, so he needs to adjust. He didn't get any time to practice. Meets the team, gets in the net, and was really on his heels, it seemed. Changes his style, gets to work a lot with Ian Clark, and I'm telling you, he's got a confidence about him, and his teammates in front of him can feel it.
Moved by Anisimov for Skilling. Of course, what McElhinney's play also does is it gives the Jackets, and specifically Bobrovsky, the time to heal from that groin injury.
That's right.
Less than 2 minutes left. Second period. 5-1 Blue Jackets. better efforts we've seen in a long time from this Blue Jackets hockey club.
Well, there were a lot of talk about not showing up last game. Where were they at the start? Glimpses of the Blue Jackets hockey. They come out with a good response so far.
It's one of the biggest sporting events in the world, the Daytona 500, coming up Sunday, February 22nd on Fox. You're going to want to check it out as the best racers in the world get after it in Daytona International Speedway. Check it out on Fox.
Nick Foligno, a couple of goals here tonight. You know, coming into tonight's contest, the Jackets defenseman, third in the league for goals, sitting at 29. Only Nashville and Calgary have scored more. Nice to see the offense and those four forward lines we talked about contributing here tonight. Not that you don't want to see the goals from the defensemen, but you want those forwards to produce.
Absolutely. That's their job. A lot of these guys, their job is to score goals. So it's nice to have the secondary scoring, but those big guys, when called upon, need to respond, and they have so far.
Wisniewski hustles. Backus and Wisniewski come together. Less than a minute to go here in the second period. Nick Foligno now with a right wing feed. Broken up there by Backus. Dubinsky with a hard hit there on Bullmister. This is Pietrangelo. Pietrangelo cross ice. Picked up by Stastny, who has the lone goal for the Blues here in the second period. He came on a power play. Pietrangelo through a crowd. Gloved by McElhaney. There you just see the confidence in McElhaney. Moving laterally, putting the glove up, making the stop, and hanging on.
And his defensemen are doing a great job in front of him, keeping that puck out of those dirty areas. And watch this play by Kevin Connaughton. He's got his stick tied up here. Number 4 on the left side of your screen. Watch his skate. He uses that skate to keep the puck away and out to the middle. And who's there? Nick Foligno. Nice little heads-up play there by the defenseman. And they've done that all night long. Make those little subtle plays to clear that area and keep the puck going away from McElhaney. And that's what good teams do.
Tarasenko keeps it away from Letestu, who had sprinted out of the zone. McElhaney out of the net to play. 30 seconds remain. Sent off the wall. Picked up here by Johansson. Johansson or Hartnell. Long shot sails high and wide. David Savard battles up high. Letestu. Letestu off the wall. Hustling back, making the play is Gunnarsson. Butler turning away. Drops it back for Gunnarsson. On for Butler. Final seconds, and that'll do it. Second period, it comes to an end. The Blue Jackets, who led 2-0 after 1, had 3 here in the second, outscoring the Blues 3-1. Foligno with a pair. Johansson has his 20th. Foligno similarly has hit the 20-goal plateau, and the Jackets lead by 4. Columbus Blue Jackets hockey on Fox Sports Ohio, brought to you by Roush Honda. The best way to say Honda is Roush Honda. And by Ticketmaster. Score. Get the only NHL tickets sold by fans and verified by Ticketmaster. It's all hockey, no hassle right now at NHL.com/ticket exchange. There's a look at Nick Foligno. 2 goals on the night. Numbers 19 and 20. And as we get an opportunity here, the Jackets have not had the power play, but how about the AEP power play summary? Jody.
Well, there you go. I mean, that's it. You gave St. Louis a couple power plays early, killed them off, but the last one gets them on the board. Cannot have any more penalties against the St. Louis Blues, and maybe a little more offensive zone time. You never know.
You see Johansson there. He scored a shorthanded goal. So the Jackets, as this period begins, lead 5-1. They chased Elliott after the 4th goal by Corey Tropp. Jake Allen on in relief after a shutout performance last night in Buffalo. The Blues head right home after this one. They've got a nationally televised game Sunday afternoon against one of their nemesis, the Blackhawks, and there's McElhaney with a stop. Jack Johnson's lost his helmet. Glove has lost its steam, who scoops it up and heads to the bench. Backhanded out, Jay Bullmister, backpedaling, sends it ahead here for Tarasenko on the left wing. Tarasenko trying to cut in, short-side attempt, Hugging that near post there was McElhaney. The opposite side, he'll cover up.
Good job by Curtis. Good start to that shift by the Columbus Blue Jackets. On their toes in the offensive zone, but they get down on their own end here. Expect the push by the St. Louis Blues. And the only way to counter that is to push back yourself. You hear the tapping of the sticks on the boards. That's Matt Calvert and Barrett Jackman going back to their respective benches after their fight in the second period. Both benches being respectful to their own.
At center, Atkinson. He too is connected for his 10th of the year. Johansson in pursuit. Far side of the ice, Johansson will play it. Taken away there by Schwartz. Aiden Schwartz. On for Butler, right wing. Into the slot, comes to Tarasenko. Backhand save, rebound, turned aside there by McElhaney.
He's had 3 shots this shift. Tarasenko 1 early, and there are 2 backhanded attempts.
Hartnell, a little backhand pass there for Atkinson. Scotty Hartnell will play game number 1,000 on Monday night here against the defending Stanley Cup champion Los Angeles Kings. Play at center, picked up there by Wenberg, tosses it back. Game number 999 in Ottawa tomorrow night.
He's excited. He's got friends and family from all over North America coming in. So the celebration will be on Friday.
That's the night the Philadelphia Flyers are here, a week from tonight.
That's right.
And the Jackets will honor them on the night that the Flyers come back to Columbus. Of course, Hartnell spent the majority of his career in Philadelphia with the Flyers.
That's right. Started in Nashville and spent 7 seasons with the Philadelphia Flyers.
Shot deflected high and wide, picked up there on the right side. Askin, the point there, and Lidstrom sends it high and wide, hustles after it. Joachim Lidstrom, originally drafted by the Blue Jackets. Left wing pass there for Berglund. Berglund trying to connect, deals it back to Jackman. A wrist shot, that's deflected and goes off the pad of McElhaney. Approaching the 3-minute mark of this third period. Lidstrom throws it into the slot. Wisniewski, little caretaking up the left wing for Matt Calvert. Calvert trying to dance around the defenseman. Cole, who's got Calvert tied up. Crowd looking for a penalty to be called. Long shot there, saved by Allen. Picked up by Cole. Cole steps to center, sends it off the wall. Fedor-Tutin will play it, rink wide. Jack Johnson, quick feed from Letestu, who steers it deep.
Good decision there by Letestu and Jack Johnson. Jack Johnson made sure that pass was hard enough that Letestu just had to get a stick on it, negate the icing, and then able to get off.
Petrangelo in deep. St. Louis defenseman driven to the ice there by Fedor-Tutin. 2 get back up, no damage done. Bouwmeester left point, gets it ahead, back his deals, cross ice, picked up, and Foligno, 2 goals on the ice. Will he make it 3? Oh, and a stop there by Allen.
Got a breakaway from his own blue line. Great speed, great awareness to pick off that pass. Just didn't convert on that breakaway.
Backus with the turnover. Foligno, as we mentioned, 4 times has scored 2 goals in a game this season. Looking for the hat trick there.
A lot of anticipation in the building when he picked up that puck. Everyone saw him on the breakaway.
Fans were rising to their feet. Yeah. We were up here in the booth as well.
Right.
Now off the wing, moving in, the shot down is goaltender McElhaney. Jackets block it. That went off Ryan Murray. He is down. Murray took that one off the back of the leg.
Not only did he take it off the back of the leg, Ryan Johansson fell down on top of him there.
Well, let's hope. Of course, he's come back here recently from injury. And he's going right down the runway. That is not good. Hopefully just trying to walk it off. Skilly. Left wing. Move to the offensive blue line for Tarasenko. Can't play it.
Tarasenko in his first couple of shifts has been in attack mode there at the net.
Nice pass here for Anisimov. Trying to pull the trigger and the shot is blocked. Anisimov thrown to the ice.
It's Cole again. He's the one who got tied up with Matt Calvert earlier in the shift.
Here's Skilly now. He's got Anisimov again and just rolled off his stick. Reeves will pick it up on the right wing. 5 minutes plus gone. Picked up here on the left wing. Shot sails wide of the net. Left wing pass. Jack Johnson across the line. Johnson in front. Redirected and a goal. Jackets continue to add. And it's now 6-1. The redirect in front. And it is Matt Calvert rightfully adding to the Jackets' lead.
Jared Bowles to Jack Johnson. Jack Johnson sees a man going to the net with his stick on the ice. Puts it on his stick. Matty Calvert. Nice little redirection. And that's where the Jackets get their 6th goal tonight. Let's take a quick look at... We're going to look at Ryan Murray next as he went down the hallway. But that was a great play by this line. We mentioned balance tonight in the lineup. Bull, Letestu, and Calvert. They get involved on the score sheet. Here comes Calvert again.
Trying to flip it back and then decided after he couldn't to send it right in on Jake Allen. We will step aside. 13:44 left. The Jackets 6, St. Louis 1.
Back at Nationwide Arena, 6-1 here for the Blue Jackets. And Ryan Murray, Jeff, went down the hallway after this little incident. We thought it was the block shot. The puck hits him there, but watch Ryan Johansson. Gets tangled up and falls right on the back of his leg. This is a better look. Watch the right skate. You see it come through here. The right leg of Ryan Murray catches the brunt of Ryan Johansson. You can see the reaction there of Murray as that happens. That does not look good.
Boy, just returning to the lineup, 100% healthy. And you notice there was some, during the TV timeout, first the trainers making Craig Hartsburg aware, being in charge of the defenseman, and then a conversation, a short one, with Coach Todd Richards. And we'll endeavor to get an update as to whether or not Murray will return. Quick shot there, turned aside off the pad. Blues. Yaskin. Trying to dance away from Wisniewski. 6-1 the score. 12 minutes, 52 seconds left. Olmister with a shot. Moved by Foligno as he's dropped there. Picked up by Savard. Wisniewski steps in front of his own net. James Wisniewski headmans that puck to Dubinsky. Dubinsky looking for Trop, broken up by the Blues. Backus across the line. Tootin defends. Backus sends it around the dasher. Corey Trop looking for it. Oshie with a high hit there on Dubinsky. Backus finishing a check on Tootin. Foligno had it knocked away. Backhanded there by Steen and steered aside very calmly there by McElhinney.
Good job there by Wisniewski. He waited for the pressure to come, and he knew where Tootin was. 5D now for the Columbus Blue Jackets with Ryan Murray in the room. We're going to see different pairings, guys that aren't used to playing with each other.
Long shot there, save, rebound, scramble in front, loose puck, and the Jackets steer to the corner. Good work. McElhinney lost his goal stick, but the Jackets move up ice. This is Corey Trop on for Foligno, offside the call, 11:49 left.
That was Corey Trop with that little play to the corner, as you mentioned, Jeff, getting the puck out of trouble.
Time for tonight's Big Lots Big Play.
There it is. Anisimov picks off the pass for the St. Louis Blues. This is short-handed. Ryan Johansson alone. And he makes no mistake as he snaps that past Elliott. And it's been a good job. I mean, all night long, the turnovers, the takeaways that the Blue Jackets have created with their speed. It's been impressive to watch.
Outlet pass for Johansson. Rink wide for Anisimov. Or, excuse me, that is Hartnell. Shot and stopped there by Allen, and he'll hold on.
They just look confident in their strides as you look at Scott Hartnell. Blue Jackets look confident in what they're doing. You see the way they're passing the puck here tonight. It's with purpose and confidence. And it's just, not just because of the score, Jeff. I think, and I don't know if you'll agree, they came out right away this way.
Absolutely. They were bound and determined. They heard from their coach this morning that they cannot start the game like they did the other night against Arizona, against this hockey club. They'd be out of it quickly. Instead, they've been ready since the opening faceoff.
To a man.
Tarasenko, loose puck. Shovels it into the slot. Jackets clear.
Job by Columbus there. 5 guys converging in front of the net. Taking care of that defensive area, that dangerous area. Right at the top of the blue paint.
Artem Anisimov. Right side. Savard. Looks over his shoulder. Sends it ahead. That's Wenberg. Wenberg drops the pass for Skilly. Jackets have got to clear the zone. Now Skilly will dance in. Fires a shot. Allen the stop. And will hold on. Well, no rest for the Jackets. They head out right after this one to the Canadian capital of Ottawa. And they'll take on a Senators hockey club smarting from their latest defeat. Last night, disappointing effort was the suggestion all the way around. Senators will be sitting there waiting for the Jackets for the big game tomorrow night in the Canadian capital of Ottawa.
That'll be a quick turnaround as tonight the flight, get in late to Ottawa. And then it's a long drive from the airport to the out by the rink where the team stays.
Are you bringing your skates to skate on the Rideau Canal?
They're in my truck. I'm not sure if I'm going to put them on the plane or not, but we'll see. Looks like it's pretty cold in Ottawa as there's a little skirmish here. And this is what Steve Ott does best. We know that. He's been in the league a long time, and he's created and caused a few scrums.
Having a talk there with Jared Bull. He's going to have no part of that. Now's not the time.
Now Steve Ott's got something to say to the entire bench, or maybe the coach. There he goes. Just trying to get a reaction somehow. Played a big role in Dallas and went back to Buffalo last night for the first time there, where he was a captain, if I'm not mistaken. And they had a little reception for him, and he's a 4th-line player for Ken Hitchcock and the St. Louis Blues.
Tell you one thing, Hitch is short in his bench here tonight. Not at all happy with what he's seen there. That ricochets off a stick and wide. That's Berglund. Berglund sends it off the wall. Down low. Puck-handed here to Joachim Lidstrom. Lidstrom turning away from fellow Swede there, Wenberg. Cross ice. Pietrangelo off the blocker. Rebound. McElhaney followed it. Tracks it down. Jackets make the stop and send it back to neutral ice. Jackets out shooting the Blues 30-25. Bouwmeester getting Oshie at the line. Jackets get it right back. Jackets have done it. In addition to scoring the goals, done a great job defensively.
How about that, standing up at the line like that, Jack Johnson? Oshie's coming in with speed. He just stands there, pokes the puck away, disrupts the whole flow that Oshie had going.
Not only is this one of the Jackets' better games of late, but it's one of their better games of the season.
I would agree, and you mentioned it there just a second ago. Starting in the defensive zone.
Icing against St. Louis with 9:12 left.
Join the area's leading sports teams and companies at the Blue Jackets Career Fair. It's Tuesday, February 24th. Meet with over 35 vendors as well as get a ticket to that game that night against the Buffalo Sabres. Visit bluejackets.com/careerfair2015 for more information.
Should finish that thought on Ottawa. Of course, one of the great tourist attractions. And you'd have to be a tourist if you took your skates there and skated the Rideau Canal.
That's right. We didn't explain that, did we?
No, but quite something to see. And we understand a bunch of the Jacket backers are busing tonight to Ottawa. We'll get a chance to show them in the crowd. And I understand several of them have brought their skates along.
Oh, have they?
Yeah, so you might have company.
Do they know it's 13 below?
I don't know if they checked the temperature.
I think it's 5 kilometers. Isn't it 5 kilometers long or something?
Yeah, it's a great ride. 7.6 we're being told here by the man that owns the concession for the hot chocolate, Eddie Milliken.
I might have to go down. We'll see.
Tarasenko across the line. Tarasenko trying to pull the trigger. There it's Matt Calvert. It was about 70 degrees. Maybe I joined you, but there wouldn't be any ice there.
That's right. That's right.
Here across the line, Schwartz with a shot, and the stop by the Jackets, McElhinney. 8:05 left.
6-1, Jackets in control here at Nationwide. Right now on FoxSportsOhio.com, Blue Jackets players share their thoughts on a key facet of the game that they are searching to find. From SEC to OSU, find out why a top recruit chose the Buckeyes and more from National Signing Day. And Sam Amico gives you his top 5 coolest Cavs of all time. Complete coverage of all of today's action involving Ohio sports brought to you by 1-800-SAFEAUTO.com. And guys, my skates are packed for the skate on the canal tomorrow.
Of course they are. We had no doubt that Dave Metzold would have his skates. I wonder if he's going to do the Open from the Rideau Canal.
I bet you he is.
Well, knowing Dave, ever energetic. He's done some great Opens for us.
No doubt.
Why not? Far side of the ice, that's Bull. Wheels it back to the point for Connaught. Able to keep it in. Fights off the check. Jackets, Matt Calvert. Had an outstanding game returning here tonight. 2/3 of the way to a Gordie Howe hat trick. And by the way, Gordie Howe being honored tonight in his native Saskatchewan. I don't know if you saw it today, Jody, but NHL Network was live there for the news conference. Brett, Bobby Hull, the Howes were there, Mark and Marty, and Wayne Gretzky. And it was a great tribute today. But tonight in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, they are honoring Gordie Howe, who has made a miraculous recovery here after some stem cell work in Mexico. And we understand that he was going to make an appearance tonight in his honor at the Kinsman dinner, and the hope was that he'd be able to stay for a while. But just the fact that he's back and going to be out there in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, just a great, great story.
That is tremendous. I did not see that, but Kelly Chase is there hosting that event, and that's why he's not here for the St. Louis Blues radio that you usually carries the weight for that.
Well, he emceed the news conference. It was quite funny. He was entertaining as usual. But a great tribute to Mr. Hockey, Gordie Howe.
Well, speaking of Gordie Howe, number of games played. We know Scott Hartnell's going to play his 1,000th here next week. The guy who's played the most in the league is Gordie Howe. It's 1,767 games played in the National Hockey League.
Incredible.
Only 290 players have played 1,000 games in the league since 1917, 1918. Number 1 is Gordie Howe.
How about the PSC game summary?
Quite a night for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Those takeaways, man, that started early and that has continued, and they've caused the giveaways of the St. Louis Blues. Those are 2 big points. By skating, being on the puck, causing giveaways and takeaways. Oshie's throwing his weight around there on 2. We've seen a couple big hits from Oshie. His last shift, he took a run at Dubinsky.
Now you can certainly tell the frustration here. This has not been a good effort here by the Blues. And of course the Jackets have pretty well controlled this hockey game with a great effort.
Yeah, they have.
On to Foligno. Foligno across the line, bounces one. Nope. Sends it in the air, and Allen will cover up. 5:45 left. 6-1. 5:45 left. 3rd period. Face off to the left of Allen, who has come on in relief after the 4th Columbus goal. Getting word now that, and really to be expected after that replay that you showed, Jody, Ryan Murray, lower body injury, will not return.
Yeah, that's tough news. You saw the way he went down. And then Ryan Johansson just kind of stumbled on top of him. And when he reacted to that contact of Johansson on him, it did not look very, very good. He just went right off, right down the hallway.
He didn't even stop.
So hopefully it's better than what we think. Maybe the score has something to do with it. They're just like, hey, let's just keep them out. And it's late in the game, but
Blues send it wide. McElhinney back on his feet from the right wing boards. Hartnell can't get a stick on it. This is Cole. That's one fly, and that one went off the glove of McElhinney and home top of the net. Jackman, rink wide. Cole looking for that backdoor play. Started to jump in. The puck was behind him. Now Schwartz thrown in front for Tarasenko. Bouncing puck. Again, Schwartz throws into the high slot. Hartnell is there. Blues able to keep it in. Jackman stepping up. Jackman knocked down there by Johansson. He's got Hartnell with him. Cruising in. Johansson. Hartnell scores! 7-1. Columbus.
No celebration. Feels pretty good, though, these guys. Great job by Ryan Johansson. Watch this play at the blue line. Chokes up on his stick, knocks it down, and he's done this all night long, anticipating the play. How he gets that pass over to Hartnell, and then Hartnell just loads up, doesn't even look, and he just whips that top shelf. Thank you very much. And that'll make up for the penalty. The power play goal that the Blues score.
let's sure that was on Hartnell's mind.
Let's save some for tomorrow. On to Ottawa.
Get everyone involved.
And this crowd saluting the Jackets with maybe their best performance of the season. It is certainly their highest goal total of the year. And they're well on their way to their largest margin of victory. Johansson draws the lone assist. That's his third point. A goal and 2 assists for him tonight. Hartnell with multi-points. Foligno with multi-points.
Corey Trott. Couple points.
Absolutely. In on Allen. Skilly attempting a shot. 3:35 left.
The Jackets have played the same way from the drop of the puck right throughout this game. Giving hits, taking away pucks, skating, supporting each other well. Good response to that poor outing against Arizona the other night.
Again, we said from the outset of this game tonight, Jackets have been outscored 13-8 since the All-Star break. They've got 7 goals tonight, making up for that all in one night.
As you said, needs to continue tomorrow in Ottawa.
Well, again, this team has seen time and time again what it takes to win in the National Hockey League. And tonight, they have certainly responded after a disappointing performance against Arizona on Tuesday. They Ottawa tomorrow, then come home. Their next home start Monday night against the defending Stanley Cup champion LA Kings, who are struggling in their own right.
That's right, and then it's Philadelphia, who are scratching and clawing. They've won 4 out of 5, got 9 out of 10 points in their last 5 games.
And then a huge road trip that will start a week from tomorrow night on Long Island. And on to Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. On to Montreal. Bomesman able to clear it to center. Picked up there by Tootin. Less than 2 minutes remaining. Jackets fly out after this one. And head to Ottawa for an engagement with the Senators.
And they've got to keep all hands on deck now, Jeff. This is a great example of how great this team can play when they're in that Blue Jackets mode. I mean, this St. Louis Blues team is not a pushover. You chased out the #1 goalie.
Well, let's not lose sight of the fact they have not lost in regulation in 13 games.
How about that?
7 straight wins, 5 in a row on the road, 12-0-1 in their previous 13, which is a franchise record. But tonight it has been all Columbus.
And they'd have to be all business. Can't get too excited about this. They've just got to keep on prodding. Worry about the next task at hand.
But there's a lot of positives to take from this game here tonight. There'll be a lot of good video clips. I'm sure the guys will see tomorrow morning in Ottawa during the video session, which will happen about noon.
The Blues came in tonight second best in the National Hockey League 5-on-5. They're fifth best coming in tonight in goals against. And tonight it has been an outstanding performance by the Blue Jackets. We talked from the open. You went through the lines, the balance and the scoring. We've seen evidence of that here tonight. Oh boy, that one hit Connaughton in the back.
Yeah, Connaughton got spun around.
Anissimo. Skilly. Off the wall. Jackets cannot afford to get anybody else injured here. The fans rise in a standing ovation here. In the final seconds, the Blue Jackets will end a 3-game losing streak of their own. And the play has been whistled down as it goes over the glass, and a discussion going here now as to a delay of game penalty.
There's Connaughton taking that puck in the back. Gee, that did. He's going to feel that in the morning. That's a high shot. Look at that. Ooh. Just tries to get out of the way. Really. Delay a game penalty. Fans don't like it. Dubinsky's going to sit for 8.9 seconds.
19:51, time of the penalty. Blues' fourth power play. Jackets scored 2 in the first, 3 more in the second, 3 here in the third. And that will do it. The Blue Jackets end a 7-game winning streak here by the St. Louis Blues. The fans salute the Jackets. An outstanding team effort here. Everybody got involved. McElhaney backstops the Jackets, and it's on to Ottawa, where they will complete the weekend looking for their second win in as many games. Corey Tropp, his first goal of the year. And that has got to be a happy occasion for him. Foligno salutes McElhaney. He gets 2 tonight to reach the 20-goal plateau.